Hello, welcome to the Health In Show, an affiliate program of Homeopathy World Community. You've come to the right place to tune in and participate with your comments and questions. Love is the greatest healer of all. But sometimes, in order to change our emotions, we must take action in other spheres of our lives. We speak with experts in alternative and complementary health fields and hope you will benefit in some small or great way. Remember, you are wherever your thoughts are. Make sure your thoughts are where you want to be.
Show, and we are an initiative for the homeopathy world community. We're so happy to have you join us today. Please feel free during the show to contact us through our chat. You can put your name, nickname, whatever you like under the video and comment, ask questions there. You can also enjoy the show by joining us through Skype, and that is at computers, and that's plural. Then the number 2K voice, that'll be through voice, not video. And you can call right into the studio at 919-518-9773 anytime during the show. We'd love to have you. This is going to be like a roundtable discussion about marketing and social justice. And I want to introduce Uta. Hey.
Hello. Hello from Portugal, where it's at the moment very sunny and bright.
What's
and
the
it's
temperature?
winter, but still.
Oh, it's
around
winter?
20-ish. 20-ish. In the
20.
sun.
In the sun. Oh, it's cold.
That's degrees C,
Oh
not
my
Fahrenheit.
It's cold. And we're in Raleigh, and as you can tell, I'm wearing a heavy sweater because it is cold here too. And I got a heater under my feet. I'm all heated up, so it's good. So good. How you doing? All right, Uta?
Yes, I'm doing great today.
Good.
We're still waiting for our guest today. We were going to have, or we want to have, and we hope we can make it, Tad Hargrave to join us. He's the person behind Marketing for Hippies. And I've got loads of questions to ask him about that because that sounds very exciting. Let's see what hippie has to do with the marketing or what marketing has to do with hippies. We hope he will join us shortly.
It's my favorite topic, though.
Oh,
so
it is.
I wish you would, huh?
Very interesting.
Oh my God. I wish he would be here because I love this topic. And I have had a lot of experience with marketing and social justice types of things. So hopefully he'll come in and he'll talk to us. But in the meantime, what would be your first question?
What would be my first question? Well, is the hippie a different customer, or why does he say marketing for hippies? What makes that difference in marketing?
Well, I think just one of the things that I would say is that the hippie in persona, let's say, of a hippie is someone who believes in humanity, believes in sustainability, believes, wants the environment clean, wants it to be all about love and, connection and caring about each other. So if you apply that to a marketing theme, a product, a service, then you would be marketing something that had our best interests at heart. That's what I would think. What would you say?
Well, yeah, that sounds very interesting. I also believe that the business of a hippie is different from the general marketing firms that need marketing. So we're looking at a different type of business, probably, because with all what you just said in mind, the hippie is a little bit of a different character to the normal in inverted commas, business person at the normal firm or company that might require marketing per se. So I think marketing for hippies in that respect.
By a hippie too, right?
By a hippie too, exactly.
Right.
He probably knows what he's talking of. So
well, right. So he's a hippie, right? Mm-hmm. And the way a hippie in general, that persona again would approach business would be different than, let's say, an advertising agency or somebody that did marketing that would, let's say, be on Madison. Yeah, are you familiar with the Madison Avenue in New York?
Mhm.
And well, so there's a lot of marketing agencies and public relations firms
Mhm.
and the big agencies that are, are in Manhattan, in New York City, on Madison Avenue, in big buildings where it's a lot of, dotting every I and crossing every T, and, a lot of pressure about performing and of having it be a certain way. So you're right. Having a business that comes from a perspective of being a hippie is not going to look at their business in the same way. They, and that's an interesting phenomenon to talk about, is just how you handle your business as coming from a perspective of, balance and taking care of yourself as well, and not from just the stress and the pressure of being in one of those big agencies. So I think that's an interesting way of looking at business too. So we probably should talk about that as well as talking about how you market a product or service that is about social justice, right? So as a businesswoman, how do you handle your business? Are you
More
a
like
hippie?
more like a hippie, I would say. But well, naturally speaking, in the holistic health care, or in a holistic healthcare business, you're likely a little bit closer to the themes that apply to a hippie movement, so to speak, where we're talking of sustainability, where we're talking of nature, where we're talking of all the aspects you mentioned earlier. So the business approach is more into the direction of marketing for hippie that would be required for our theme. So I was hoping he'd be here by now, because this is very interesting also for homeopaths, and I am a homeopath. So I would like to know what that makes the difference for me in my marketing, or what I can do in my marketing to reach my customer, because also our customers, I think, are different. Where while you have the white collar marketing of firms and companies, as you say, in Madison Avenue, and we have a different, we have holism, we have gentle health care, we are in a different sphere, I believe, and our clients are, generally speaking, also a little bit different, because they are seeking treatment for themselves that is outside of the realm of conventional medicine, where we have homeopathy, herbalism, and all the other complementary and alternative treatment practices.
It's interesting because as a coach, and I work with individuals, men, women, children, couples, families, businesses, I can work across the board. I always used to kind of tuck it away when I would hear somebody stand up and say, as a coach, that they strategically can help somebody, or they can make somebody do something a certain way. Like I make my clients or whatever do. And I would step back and go, well, first of all, I can't make anybody do anything. Anything I do is a suggestion. However, the way I approach my business, excuse me, or my clients is holistically. I believe, and that's why when somebody says, well, how do you work with all those people? It's because I work from the heart out, from the soul out, holistically. It doesn't matter where somebody is coming from, or what the overall issue might be, because if you work a whole person, you can't just work a part of them. So when somebody would come to me and say, well, do you work in the area of relationships? I'd say yes. Do you work with somebody in their career? Yes. Do you work with somebody in this, that? Yes, because you work the person. You can't work somebody's career if you don't work the person. You don't just work the career. You have to get into how a person operates, how they feel, how they express themselves. Same thing about relationships. I mean, you might think you can't work relationships if you only work career, but everything is about a relationship, right? And so you have to work the whole person. So I feel like that's hippie type,
Mhm.
as opposed to just strategically from the head, which
Mhm.
is where strategic actions come from as opposed to the heart. So for me, it would be the same way. And I think it's also the way we dress in how we approach things as well. Going out into the business world, I don't wear like I never have worn a suit, like a skirt and jacket and be all that. Never. I would never happen. You would never
Mhm.
see me walk in someplace like that.
Mhm.
So anyway, there's a lot to it,
Mhm.
as far as that's concerned, and I, I think it's healthier, don't you think?
It's more unique also because we are not
Ah,
uniquely uniform. A suit is a uniform. It might be individualized in color, or it might be in cut or something, but it's always a bit of a uniform. And what you wear and what you're comfortable expresses who you are. And a uniform doesn't really do that all that much, I don't think.
that's a very good point on how we look at our businesses coming from that, social justice,
Mhm.
holistic kind of approach is that we tend to allow for more creativity.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a good point. Excellent
Mhm.
point. Yeah, so anything else on that note?
What you just said is interesting because you described this holism from a different perspective. If we look at homeopathy, and I'm a homeopath, so I look at it from that perspective, we treat patients holistically. That means we do not just treat the locality where it hurts or where something is wrong. We treat the patient as a whole, and that includes the physical, the mental, and the emotional plane. So we have to incorporate all that. So that is a very good reflection of what you spoke of in a more broader sense than what I'm honing into in a health sense. So yeah, that applies.
So do you think, so based on what you just said, you kind of got me to thinking about
Mhm.
how hard or easy is it, or does it matter to work our businesses that have that hippie kind of flavor in today's society?
Well, I think today's society is split in a way into the suit wearers and probably other groups as well. But on the other side, we have those that are more holistically in their living, in their in all that they're doing. We have it shows in professions, it shows in living space, it shows in schooling. Interesting schooling that has more of a holistic note is the Waldorf schools, for example. Then we have the strict schools with uniform, with curricula that is, and we also have homeschooling as another example of a schooling that is more open-minded, more holistic, because it incorporates the school of life and everything in nature and everything in our skills. It is holistic in adding our skills, our talents into what we're learning and in promoting those. So yeah, we are in a way different from that perspective also. So marketing for hippies does reach into a different category of person and into a different category of jobs, I would say. I don't think the same application of marketing for hippies would work for the suit wearer in a setting such as Madison Avenue.
Yeah, it's much more comfortable for me to be this kind of, and I've been on the other side. I mean, I've
Mhm.
been in that corporate environment setting
Mhm.
where I remember, this is a while ago, but it still happened, where one of my colleagues came to work without pantyhose.
Mhm.
Now, this was a while ago. This wouldn't happen today, but this is where I came from. And a comment was made, you cannot come to work without pantyhose or stockings. Now, that, of course, wouldn't happen today, right?
But you wouldn't really tell if you came to work without a pantyhose nowadays, would you?
No, because I wear pants a lot, right? But that was like shocking,
Mhm.
right, back then. So we've come pretty far in how we're, in some cases, in how we're looking at things. But we do have a little bit ways to go. But I wouldn't change to fit into society, because I would feel like if you're going to use me as a coach, then your first thing is not strategically planning your life. Because you would know you can't strategically plan your heart. You got to be open to change, to things shifting on a dime. So you wouldn't use me anyway, right? And if I was a marketing company whose vision, mission was to help people market a socially sustainable product or whatever, you wouldn't come to me if it wasn't, and if that wasn't your thing, because you're not going to make as much money initially on social justice issues or a product or a service, because they may not be as familiar as something that, we're more apt to think of as the other side, So like with what you do in Clever H, let's say. So what's your perspective there, your approach?
Well, the approach is to reach the thing about Clever H is Clever H, the mag, is an online journal for homeopaths and by homeopaths. So the focus group has been from the inception of the journal to promote access to research, to experiential reports, and to cases and material about health, wellness, and homeopathy, of course. And the strategy was very honed in on the homeopathic community out there, because we have a large homeopathic community. And we had at the time, I started doing Clever H in 2014. At the time, we had very few homeopathic journals out there. This has changed a bit. We've got more resources now, more access to resources. And what annoyed me at the time to actually create Clever H was the fact that I didn't have access to articles, to research very much, other than the databases, which after having finished university, I lost access to. You need to be able to enter a database to get access to research articles. And when you're out of an educational institution, you generally lose that access, of course, because it's a costly affair. And to privately get access to articles costs a lot of money. And in avoidance of this, I decided, there's little access to it, so I need to do something to collect such access to information. And that was the idea behind it. Clever H has been focusing on homeopaths principally, but with time, of course, also homeopathically interested members of the public, not necessarily practitioners or research in the homeopathic sphere, have become readers of Clever H. And we still do the same thing. We still publish experiential reports, case reports. We still publish research. And the direction is still to provide access for people that cannot access any databases and need to communicate with other practitioners.
So, and if you look at it from a perspective of a marketing piece, of a hippie type of marketing piece, how is it used? Because it's an important thing for people to look at, because it's not your typical, put an ad out on Facebook or put an ad out on Instagram, whatever. It has different legs, different dimension. So how is that used as a sustainable marketing piece?
Well, it has been a lot of work to get it out there. And I'm very glad we have a very strong community in homeopathy, that we share each other's works across all the platforms that are at our disposal. And if the articles are good, they get shared even more. So the marketing has been a lot of work, and it has been mainly via social media and the exchange on different platforms, be it Pinterest, be it Facebook, be it Telegram, now as a newer one. But the marketing has been reduced practically to what is available on social media, which comes to an interesting point. Is social media a marketing for hippie type of platform? I always wonder if that plays in line. It doesn't really sound like it, but what do you think?
Everything can be when it's not a static ad, when you don't do that, when you don't place an ad in a magazine or a journal or whatever as a normal ad, the way a normal ad would go. But I would look at Clever H as a marketing tool for whoever is writing articles, and for you as the editor in chief. I mean, put your name out there, and it is a social justice cause. I don't know if that's even right, but it's definitely an opportunity to market in a unusual way, and so that's a way that people can market themselves, their services, their products, is to write an article or write a blog.
Absolutely.
Guest blog, write an article, on somebody else's website when they allow you to. And that is a great way to get a conversation going, to get somebody to comment back. And as well as for you, hopefully, by putting it out there, your name is out there, making a difference.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's what it's doing for our authors. And I hear the feedback is positive. The authors say it does have an impact on their practice. People read their articles and come back and ask questions about them. I see it in the feedback I get from readers when they write to me or comment on articles, when they say, okay, this has helped me a lot. How can I reach the author? But there is a section with the details of the author, so I'm not keeping those to myself.
Yeah.
That helps.
That helps.
That helps. Way to promote their practice. That's a way to get out there for many junior homeopaths that are starting out, to show off their expertise. And that's what we're also doing with a Homeopathy World Community. We're creating a community for homeopaths to get together and to grow together, to be a standalone entity for homeopathy by homeopaths, and with people that are not necessarily homeopaths but that are interested in homeopathy. We're doing it for the client and we're doing it for the community. So we're trying to get both under one hat, and we're, I think, doing a good job at it so far.
Yeah, and all of this is about adding value. And I think with socially conscious marketing, you add value, and you don't always know when you're going to reap the reward. It's not immediate gratification in some cases. You have to build on it. You have to continuously be doing something that is different than, again, putting out an ad or doing the typical marketing commercial on TV, for instance. Could be a public service announcement that markets something that is is more unusual and more of come from a perspective of of the environment. So it's, like I am writing a series of books. Well, that helps me. Is everything all right?
Yeah. All good. Sorry.
No. That is one of the things that I use that is important to me, and I pick subjects that matter. So with my book series, In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of, it has I have a reason for doing it. First, the reason for doing it is to give a voice to people who don't always have a voice. That's my first reason. Then it's, do you want to have me come speak somewhere? Or, do you want to interview me on your show? Or, something like that is part of it. But my first thing is what feels good to me in what I'm doing to help the globe, the planet, the society. So that is, I also think, what's important under this umbrella of what we're talking about of marketing is that the subject is bigger than me, but it's how we do it. And so I would love to ask people out there to come join us in this conversation, 919-518-9773. or Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And you can also comment in our chat underneath the video on the show page, and share your thoughts, your ideas. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your product? What's your service? Let's be creative and talk about how you could market your product or service, considering the fact that it's not something that is just for immediate gratification. It has this environmental piece to it. So whatever it is, let's call us, give us your product. Let's explore options for you, because that's a fun thing to do. Like, how could you sell your product and get it out more into the public's eye, I would say.
Perfect. We're still waiting for Tad to come up. I haven't heard from him. He's not responded yet to my email, so maybe he'll still join us. When exploring his website, I mean, I've been following him for a while now. He's been doing a lot of great stuff. And if you want to check out, he's on YouTube and he does a lot of webinars and things like that. Check it out and check out his website, marketingforhippies.com. He has a very good sentence that I find very interesting, because he says, do you want to do marketing that feels good but doesn't get you clients, or do you want to do marketing that works but feels awful? I'd like to merge these two. What do you think?
You read it again. Could you read it? Read it one more time.
Marketing that feels good but brings you no clients, or marketing that works but feels awful? I'd like to have something that I would like to have marketing that feels good and brings me clients.
Yeah, why not?
So, yeah, but there are different forms of marketing, and that's something I wanted to ask him about. We'd have to find a way to market that is both gratifying and has a positive impact and gets us where we want to go with our marketing. So I was going to ask him about this, but what do you think? Does marketing feel good and bring us no clients, or does marketing work only if it feels awful?
No. And I think marketing that feels good, definitely, I mean, how could it not bring in clients? How could it not make a difference somewhere? You will attract it. You will create it. I can't imagine it any other way. Now, it may not happen so quickly. It may not be, if you offer a coupon, come use my service, 10% off. That might work quicker than, explaining something, standing up for something, sharing something, showing a video of something that matters. But I think you also, when you're doing here we get, there he is. Oh, there's our friend.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. My alarm went off at the wrong time.
Well, we've been talking about you.
Oh, gosh.
We've been sharing a lot. So welcome.
Hello there.
Hello. I'm just gutted to be so late and to have kept you all waiting.
Oh, we had a wonderful chat. No worries.
Your honor.
Yeah.
So we're glad you're here. My name is Marilyn Shannon. And of course, Uta, you've met. And we're happy. We're going to just jump right in with you. And then, since it's such a great topic, we will definitely, we've opened the door, but we'll definitely have you back again to do some more good stuff with us. But we're so happy to have you here. So
I have something. I need to do something. Pat, can I ask you to tilt? There you go. He already done it.
So,
hello there. Pleased to meet you. We haven't actually seen each other, but we've been emailing back and forth. I'm glad you could make it anyway. Let's dive right in. I already said the title is amazing, Marketing for Hippies. How on earth did you come up with that?
Well, it was just something that I would say when I was at networking events. People would say, what do you do? And I would say, I do marketing for hippies. And it was just a joke. My website was originally tadhargrave.com. And I called my business Radical Business sort of half-heartedly because I didn't have a better name. And then, yeah, I'd be at a party. What do you do? Oh, marketing for hippies, and people would laugh, and they would say, "Oh, that's funny. They really need that," or boy, that's what a contradiction. Or so it just seemed to get attention. And one day, it just struck me. I said, "I wonder if that URL is available. I wonder if." And it was, and I was shocked. I couldn't believe that nobody else had grabbed that prime real estate. And then it was very easy, and it was interesting. The response, of course, it got once I started using that even more formally. There's something in a business name about bringing together contradictions. There's a website, or there's a blog post on my website. If you go to marketingforhippies.com/oxymoronic, and where I look at this of, the power of bringing together things that normally don't go together. So there was one, Buddhist boot camp. So it's somebody who does, workout boot camps, but from a Buddhist perspective, or there's a whole list of these things. And what's interesting about it, number one, is it often has people laugh, or it's memorable because the contradiction is so. Marketing and hippies don't normally go together, right? But the other thing is, what it's also the reason it's so jarring in a way that's memorable is that you're bringing together different worlds, two different worlds. So marketing that world and hippies that world, somehow a Venn diagram of that together. People sort of take a step back, and for a lot of people, if they think about it, it's a good question to think of. Especially when we're thinking about homeopathy, and well, is there another world that you're trying to mix with homeopathy? There's a lot of homeopaths doing the homeopathic thing, but is there some other world you're a part of? Is there some other scene that you're a part of that you could be a bridge between them? And very often it's the case. There's like in the yoga community. This is one of the challenges with yoga, is that it can help anyone with anything, and there's a legitimate point to that. It's has multiple applications, but the challenge is if you're trying to market in that way, you're at a party. So what do you do? I teach yoga, and they say, oh yeah, I'm looking more for help with my gallbladder. I'm looking for help really more with my lower back or with my relationships. And if everything they say is, oh, yoga can help with that, it loses credibility. It sounds, it's like an exaggeration of some kind. And if you sort of are willing to sub-niche, if you're willing to let go of being everything to everybody and trying to bridge every world, people start to trust it more. So in yoga, there's a woman who in Toronto who has a business called Yoga for Round Bodies, because she has a rounder body, and she went to yoga classes and it was not satisfying. So again, those two people with round bodies and yoga don't seem to go together in a lot of classes, at least in the experience of people who are a little more round. And I just read another one. There was somebody who was a swimming teacher, and again, there's so many niches, but he had I'm not sure the term these days, one of the little people, used to be called a dwarf or midget, or it was a child of somebody who came, and they couldn't even get they're too small to even get in the shallow end. And so the lifeguard was like, well, no, you can't let your child in to the pool. And he was so heartbroken seeing this. And so he started teaching classes nationally of how to swim for little people. There's so many. You could do yoga for depression. There's a guy, Tommy Rosen, who's combined the world of 12-step programs with yoga. I think it's called Recovery 2.0. So that's where it came from for me. But it's just that kind of naming is such a doorway into a different way of thinking about marketing.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So when you do something, when you say that, I'm from the school that you don't tell everybody everything all at one time, because you
Sure.
want them to ask you questions, right? You just say enough to help them to be curious. That's what that does, right? It helps them to be curious so that you don't have to, be the one doing all the talking, that the person at the networking thing or wherever it is opposite you is going to ask, what does that mean? And then you get to elaborate. You get to market it.
Yeah, beautiful. And I would say that it's good to, there is a fine line between something that's mysterious and curiosity evoking and something that's so nebulous and vague that nobody understands what the hell you're saying. And
Right.
there's the old adage, the confused mind says no. But yes, anything we can do that will have them, if you imagine yourself literally at a party, somebody says, what do you do? And you give some answer. Of course, the response we want to get is not, wow, I completely understand, but oh, tell me more. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, how do you do that? Or something like that.
So we have a lot of people watching us that are from all walks of life, but a lot, as you know, are homeopaths. And we have some questions on the chat.
Okay.
It's very hard to market a homeopathic practice.
Mm.
So maybe we can, go
Sure.
into some of that as well, but, sustainable, socially conscious product services, are interesting to market.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with the assertion that it's
Okay.
difficult to market, though I understand the experience it's coming from. The reason I would say that it's hard to market for most people is because if we can use this analogy, if you can imagine your ideal client is on island A, and they're on island A, and by definition, they have some problem, some symptoms they don't like. There's something they're experiencing, something that's painful for them. They want to be on island B. That's the dream, to get to island B. And on island B, they've got some result that they're craving. So there's a symptom here, there's a result they're craving here. And our practice is like a boat that can take them from one island to the other. So again, in this case, homeopathy is a boat that could take them from one island to the other. The major reason I see holistic practitioners, homeopaths included, struggling is because they're not wanting to limit themselves just to island A or island B. They're trying to be everything to everybody. And they're trying to sell the boat of homeopathy. And unless people are really excited walking in the door about that boat, there's nothing there. So if instead of trying to sell that boat, so I worked with a homeopath years ago, and I said, look, of all the conditions you treat, are there some that you feel like you really knock it out of the park with, that you're most excited? And she said, one of the big ones is that a lot of people come with autoimmune conditions. And I said, okay. So they come with autoimmune conditions. And you feel good, competent, strong. She says, yeah. And I said, and what's the process like? She said, well, there's this, like 8-hour intake. It's a very extensive intake process. And I said, and how much of that is you asking questions? How much of that is you trying, sort of explaining to them what homeopathy is, why they're autoimmune? And she said, well, there's a lot of education. People have a lot of questions. I said, have you ever thought of doing a workshop on because she is a Hahnemannian homeopath. Have you ever thought of doing a workshop on, number one, your perspective on autoimmune conditions, where you would say, here's what I think an autoimmune condition is. Here's why I think it happens. Here's the mistakes I think people make in trying to heal it. Here's some case studies of people who come in with very severe ones and how it was resolved. Have you ever done anything like that? She said, no. And I said, well, I would do a monthly workshop. And then, there you go. There's your workshop. And she said, oh, well, what workshop would I do the next month? I said, no, that workshop for 12 months. And you just let some of the word of mouth spread, where people get to know you and can refer people. And that kind of approach is suddenly much easier, because now people have gone through a lot of this intake process. By the time they show up, they're going to be more compliant and willing to actually follow the protocols. So it's and that's not difficult. So this thought, sometimes it becomes a spell we put ourselves under, or we say, well, it hasn't worked, so the past equals the future. It's just hard to market this. What's hard is to market and this would be hard if it was a real boat. If somebody said, "Oh, I'm looking to get from this island to this island. You should buy this boat. This is a great boat we got here. It could take you anywhere you want to go. Does it go in any season you want to go? You want to go around the world? You want to go to the moon? Whatever. You buy this boat. This boat's going to work for you." There's something that just isn't credible. People, whenever it smacks, is too good to be true. It can heal everything. So the willingness, possibly, to specialize in an issue. And let me just pause here to say you can be explicit without being exclusive. You can talk mostly, say, I work with heart conditions, or I work with autoimmune, or I work with cancer or diabetes, whatever the issue is. And you can still say yes to everybody else with every other issue. But in terms of the education you're doing, you might focus. And then if you combine this whole bridging worlds with this, because you might say, well, yes, I do homeopathy, but before I did homeopathy, I was very passionate about nonviolent communication. I was very passionate about exercise or whatever it was. Then you might combine it and you might say, yeah, I help people primarily with cancer. But my approach is we do this homeopathic work, but I think cancer also maybe has connections to repressed anger or something. So we work on how to express that. So you can start to bridge modalities and have a particular focus of an issue. And then suddenly it's much easier. The thing that's hard, people think I just released a video the other day about this. People think they're struggling with marketing, but they're not. Almost always they're struggling with the niche.
So you're saying get a good title, a good niche, and do workshops?
It's not a bad way to go. It's not a bad way to go. It's more, I'm saying, have a focus, have some kind of, something clear that's beyond the boat. Because this is not just homeopaths, but so many practitioners just try to get known for the boat, but you can be known for the journey. You could be known for the way you do the journey. You could be known for who you are as the captain of the boat. You could be known for the view that they get. Well, there's so many things you could be known for, and most of the time people just pick this one. It's very narrow, very prescribed, and it doesn't. Here's where it might work. Homeopathy suddenly becomes in vogue, and you're the only person in town who's a homeopath. Your problem solved. You don't need any more marketing. But what if there's more than one homeopath? And what if people don't understand the difference between a homeopath and a naturopath?
So what kinds of businesses do you work with? And can you give us an example? I know you spoke about the yoga and so forth, but what other kinds of businesses and what's your approach with them? Like I know for myself, I'm a coach. And I work with a life and business coach. And so I'm one of those people who have the experience of working with a lot of different people. One of my approaches is I am very passionate about helping people have a voice. That's one of the things I like to do. So I'm writing a series of books, and my books are called In Just One Afternoon, Listening into the Hearts of. Well, first it was men, then twins, millennials, people impacted by opioid addiction. Next book is Black Fathers. That's a way for me to put information out there, and how I'm marketing it is so forth. I'm curious as to what, when you're marketing socially conscious thoughts and ideas, what do you do? And can you give us some example?
Sure. Well, okay. So I think it's good to market thoughts. And from a business standpoint, there's a bit more context that's needed on those thoughts. Because trying to just sell a point of view, trying to sell a philosophy, people are generally tired of philosophies, I think, and there's no context for a philosophy. So one could say, I think love is really important. Okay, well, that's a nice idea. Fits in the realm of ideas, but it's hard to get one's teeth into it. So I wrote a whole ebook called Point of View Marketing, and I've done just so much thinking on this. And so I do agree that having a point of view, having ideas matters. But the caveat or proviso I'd put on it is, if you sell a product, then your point of view is going to be specifically your point of view about how that type of product should be made. If you are selling a service, it has to be primarily your point of view about how to get from island A to island B. So there's got to be a context for it, because you can say, oh, love is the only thing that matters. Well, great. Or you could say, primarily our bodies are energetic. Well, cool story, bro. It's a nice idea, but if it's not applied to a journey that I'm taking, it's going to be hard for me to wrap my mind around it and find the relevance in it. So, when we're looking at marketing, there are 3 roles of marketing, and this applies to any kind of business. Number 1, we've got to get people's attention. Number 2, there's got to be some filtering, so we don't just get the attention of everybody, but only end up working with people who are a perfect fit. And number 3, we have to lower the risk of them taking that first step. So it's those 3 in that order. And then, within this filtering, there are 3 things, which are relevance, credibility, and value. And so we have to establish relevance. But relevance to what? It's going to be relevance to the journey that they're on. We have to establish credibility, that they actually trust us. Oh, you could help me on that journey. Rather than, I can help you. You want me to be your hiking guide? Yeah, I'll walk you anywhere you want. I don't trust it. I don't trust that you've walked in every climate, every ecosystem, every trail. I don't believe it. And then value, the return on investment. So, anyways, that's the big picture. And then, so specifically here, some of these examples just sound too simple, but there's a fellow in the Netherlands, and he, or maybe it was in Denmark, but he was did exercise, but it's that kind of natural movement stuff where instead of lifting weights, you're climbing trees, you're wrestling, you're rolling around, you're jumping from rock to rock, doing a lot of more natural movements. And he was doing okay. There was a bit of word of mouth, people coming in, not bad, but it wasn't where he wanted it to be. And so I said, well, what if you did, and it was right during the lockdowns too, so it was very difficult to get anyone together. And I said, well, this might be the kind of thing that posters could work well for. So we tried that, almost no reply. Then he found out that he realized that a lot of his clients were being sent by holistic practitioners. They're saying, oh, you need to exercise, but if you don't want to go to the gym, here's a really interesting way to do it. It's a lot of fun. He does outdoor classes. So he found that was true. And I said, well, what if you did a Zoom call where you brought holistic practitioners together just to meet each other, and including yourself, and you start. So he tried that a few times. It didn't work. But what he found worked well, and again, this sounds too simple, he loved going for walks in nature. So he just started inviting someone, hey, do you want to go for a walk? And he would take them for a walk in nature, and he'd be sharing what he does, which is just an inherently fascinating topic. And so they'd be, on this trail, and somebody said, what do you mean? He said, well, for example, instead of, a chin-up bar, we use this. And he'd actually maybe do it in front of them, give them an example, and maybe give them something to do, and they'd be laughing. Oh, this is so much fun. And then they started coming to the classes. So he realized it wasn't just that they were a hub or a referral source, they were actually potentially great clients for him. But it takes a little bit of experimenting to get there. So he just started to realize, oh, these are good clients because they already value their health. They already see the importance of this. So this is one example, and
That's a good example. If I may interject, it's a good example. But what do we do in our socially distanced world that we're currently in, where inviting someone for a walk doesn't work?
Right. right? Or it's hard to make a strategy on it because you never know if the lockdowns are going to come back and then all your plans are shot. Well, of course, it means a lot of this goes virtual. And there are a number of things one can do. So one could, just because it didn't work with this fellow, it doesn't mean it doesn't work, but you could host a virtual gathering. But again, if you say, hey, I'm a homeopath, I want to host a virtual gathering with myself and other practitioners to just hang out and chat, there's really limited interest in that. But if you said, I'm a homeopath, and the issue I really want to focus on is diabetes, there's lots of diabetes where I live, and so I'd like to host a gathering of other folks who work on diabetes, herbalists, chiropractors, naturopaths, nutritionists, exercise people, etc. If you said, I want to host a gathering of them, and then when you reach out, you say, look, I'm a homeopath. I work with a lot of people. I don't do everything. There's more that needs to be done. Often I need more support. And I'm going to need to refer out. And it just made sense to me. You're probably in the same position, and maybe we should meet. And so I'm hosting this gathering. You could do something like that and do it online. Everyone gets a couple minutes to introduce themselves. And this can work very well. You could also just do this one-on-one. You reach out to people. But you could also, again, and this really hinges on the niche. It hinges on having some specialization. But you could say, if it was diabetes, you might say, what kinds of podcasts might people with diabetes listen to and get interviewed on those? You might find associations that work with people with that kind of issue, and then you speak on one of their platforms. The key here is that we think about, where do my people hang out? So I wrote this ebook, Hub Marketing, and there's tons of videos about this on my YouTube channel. And I just released one. This was on Instagram, but this is the best story there is about hub marketing. Once I tell this story, we don't need any other stories. So in Canada, we have something called the Girl Guides. I don't know if it's where you are, but it's like Boy Scouts, but for girls. Yeah. And they sell these cookies. They go door to door, they knock on your door, and they try to charm you into buying as many boxes. And the cookies are they're okay. They're not great, but we have this national taste we've developed for them somehow. But that's cold marketing. You're knocking on doors. Nobody knows who you are. Now, maybe they see you're a Girl Guide because of the uniform, and maybe they have some relationship there, but it's fundamentally a cold call, and that doesn't work that well. So this one Girl Guide said, I'm sick of this knocking on doors nonsense. And so she set up like a stand, and she put it right in front of a shop that sold weed products where people are guaranteed to have the munchies. And she sold out in 2 hours. None of this knocking on doors for weeks. She just sold out, So she just thought, where would my people be? And she went there. But this all, again, hinges on having some sense of who your people are. Because if your people are, I help everybody, one can't do this. This conversation about hubs is over. And then people say, but Tad, I can help anybody. So how do I market that online? There is no give up. Stick a fork in yourself because you're done. There's no way to do it.
And it is because of being online that it has kind of forced us to go more niche, because you can't do everything online like we had more opportunities, when things were a little bit more face to face. And I look at this a lot like public relations more than just marketing and advertising. I went to school for marketing and advertising, but the way it looks, and it's very different because now it's like PR. It's public.
Yeah. Well, and there's a term I had to phrase to wrap my thoughts around this. I call this the inverse law of geography. And so the inverse law of geography says that the smaller the geographic population is that you're working in, the broader your niche will have to be. But the broader the geography, the more narrow your niche will have to be. If you work in a small town with 100 people, you are the town doctor, or you're the generic witch on the hill. You play a very broad role. You're going to help and in fact, you're probably not just a doctor. You probably also have a farm, and maybe you're a part-time mechanic. That's just the nature of a small town. Because if you say, I specialize in back pain, but there's only 2 people in town with back pain, this doesn't work. So you have to be general. But if you then move to a town like London, England, or New York, or Paris or something, you're suddenly, there's so many people. And if you try to just say, oh, hey, everybody, I'm a homeopath, like here's a conversation that no longer happens. I don't think has ever, it happened maybe a bit in the beginning, hasn't happened in over a decade. You're at a party, somebody says, what do you do? And somebody says, oh, I'm a life coach. Really? Tell me about that. Wow, a coach for somebody's life? Is that like a sports coach? But I've never heard of this. This is amazing. Wow.
That happens.
Does it really still?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So cool. So but it's going to be more and more rare. That conversation that used to be complete bafflement and curiosity and interest will happen less and less every year. It's like if I go to a town, I always joke when I go to most towns, I say, yeah, are there any yoga studios here? And does anyone teach yoga in this town? Because of course, with every passing year, the yoga studios are doing teacher trainings, churning out more and more. And so then if you say, well, I'm a homeopath, well, but what if there's 100 other homeopaths in town? How are they going to distinguish you from the other homeopath? This suddenly becomes very difficult. And if you try to just market based on the boat of homeopathy, the only thing you can do then is say, my homeopathy is better. That's the only thing you're left with. And they just have to trust your claims that all the other homeopaths are stupid because they were part of this school of homeopathy. And let me tell you the intrigue of what happened 100 years ago. So that's probably not going to be that helpful. But if you're in a bigger town now, you can afford to narrow. And in some ways, well, the blessing in it, though it's not entirely a blessing, but the blessing that's in it is you get to work with just who you want to work with. You can really specialize. And then now if you go on the internet and you're reaching everybody on the planet, boy, it's almost impossible to niche too narrowly. You know, you could say, I'm a homeopath and I work with people who are recovering from the treatments from stage 4 cancer, or I'm working with homeopaths who I'm a homeopath who works with people who are recovering from vaccine damage from this specific vaccine. And they narrow in a vaccine that maybe not even a ton of people took. But they put it out there and on the internet, so people are looking for this, how to recover from swine flu vaccine damage, and they don't know, and you've specialized in that. If you do it at a local level, even in a town, you might not be able to make it, but online you might just be able to. So because what starts to happen is, business is always word of mouth. That's always how marketing actually works, people talking to people about things. And you probably know this from your own experience. Once you find somebody who they specialize in a very specific way on a very particular issue, you just start referring people to them. And what a relief. And if they ever try to change their niche, you sit them and say, no, you can't, because you're the person I refer to. So you can't get rid of that product. You can't stop doing that course. You're my go-to. So people get it in their heads of who it is that does this thing, and that could be true for you. So they say, oh, you have vaccine damage from this. I know somebody who just does this exact thing, and people remember it. People are more likely to tell people about it. It just makes everything easier. So yeah, again, when you're online, however narrow you're thinking about niching, you could probably go narrower and it would make your life easier.
Perfect. I'm very sorry the time is coming to an end. We've had you for too short. Dad, you gotta come back.
I would be so happy to come back.
It's been great. That was a very heated half an hour with Marilyn ahead of your coming into the show, and it was a wonderful half an hour we had with you. Thank you so much. It was fantastic. Marilyn, thank you very much for the chat ahead of Tad joining us. Amnon, thank you very much. Everybody else, thank you for listening and for being here. Anything you want to know about Homeopathy World Community, come visit our website, homeopathyworldcommunity.com. Next month, we've got Dr. Udo Erasmus coming on the Health In Show, and we'll stay in touch with Tad, and we'll work something out to have him on the show again. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful month. And Marlon?
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next month. And Tad, we want to hear more. So we'll be back. I'm Nan. See ya.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.